Okay, so hello, my name is Stuart Waiton. I'm the chairperson of the Scottish Union for Education. As you can see, our strap line is education, not indoctrination. And amongst the many concerns we have, connect to the promotion of things like sexualized education for children and also the promotion of a transgender ideology in school as much as well as other issues. And today we have two people with us, Amanda Armstrong, a concerned parent, and Campbell Cunningham, a concerned grandparent, both from Livingston. And I thought we could listen to their experiences and what they've been trying to do to challenge some of these things in schools. I'm just going to pass it over to you, and you can say what triggered your concern about issues in your area.
Well, I would say that I came across this maybe 2+ years ago. My daughter has a daughter in primary school. I believe she'd have been in primary 4 at the time, and she made me aware of it, and she got eventually, after quite a lot of back and forth with the school, she got the lesson plans. And when I seen the lesson plans, obviously I was very concerned. My daughter did remove her daughter from the RSHP education, and she's been out of it for nearly 2 years now. It's been in that school for nearly 2 years. But I also have other grandchildren in like secondary school and other primary schools. I've been to see with my daughters the head teachers in 2 schools. We've also been to see some counsellors together, Amanda and I, and we feel that we've been kind of one organisation blames another. I believe it's, you know, they kind of push the emphasis onto them and say it's the council, or they say it's the school. So we've met this. We've been, and I would say that the teachers who I have met, the head teachers at one primary school, were, in my opinion, indoctrinated as well before they're talking to any children. I found that was very, in the primary school, was very, they were very strong pro this, you know.
Yeah. So what was the nature? I mean, it's kind of awkward, this. I know this is where it becomes bizarre, but it's almost awkward to describe the material that you're talking about, even for adults. But what was some of the lesson plans that you saw that you thought were dodgy?
Well, I thought that they were certainly not age appropriate. For my granddaughter, when I first seen that, would have been 9. And I believe most of it, is far too advanced for a child that age. It's nothing less than sexualisation, Stuart. It isn't. It's no education, I don't believe.
Yeah, and this is were you seeing the kind of naked images of men and women and
the
body parts and
the names of body parts, and
yeah,
as I spoke to them in the primary school, they were willing to show us some. They would have been willing to show us it all, but it was very kind of structured and showing you the bits that maybe look more acceptable, if you know what I mean. But I was also able to point out there's a lot more than that going on, because I was educated on it. You know, I went and made sure I educated myself on it.
And how did you do that? How did you educate yourself on it? Because I think that's quite important for a lot of parents and grandparents, because a lot of people don't know what's actually being taught.
No, definitely not. Well, I would say the first experience I had of that was Mandy told me she'd been to a conference in Edinburgh. It was the Christian Institute, I believe, yeah. And we arranged to come to the Scottish Union for Education meeting last October, was it? Yeah. And obviously we were at the next one. So a lot of information through talking to people at conference. I've researched a lot of the background of it, where it comes from, the WHO stuff, all that stuff. I believe this has been a long haul for them, you know, and they've almost achieved everything they wanted to, but it isn't too late, I don't believe either, you know, to fight back against this.
Yeah, and you mentioned that some of the parents had removed children, because I've also heard from other parents where they've been told that they can't remove their children, but you can remove your children, can't you?
Oh, of course, yeah. I believe, and I was under the impression that you couldn't in a secondary school, but I since found out that isn't true. But what I find is they're trying to. They've no problem with saying, right, we'll remove the child from the RSHP part of it, but is it the PSE, personal and social education, is all part. They tell you it's not part of it, but it's the same class, if you understand what I mean. So why is it in there if it's not part of it, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I believe it's all through that as well, this health and well-being stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're able to, but how would you be able to describe the idea that it's sexualized? I mean, one of the images I'm thinking of is a one where it's telling sort of very young children about the clitoris, for example, which you kind of think, I mean, that I'm quite liberal on most things, and even I'm a bit sort of taken aback at the fact that very young children are being taught about sexual pleasure, as far as I can tell, which is strange.
I asked today, why are we teaching children about sexual pleasure? But their opinion was that they aren't. I also asked them where morality comes into it. You know what I mean? I was told that we don't teach morals in school. That was what I was told. That's no, but
maybe they should.
Aye, well, maybe that's where we went wrong, but that's another conversation, isn't it? But there's
And so what did you do? You've come across that parents and grandparents have come across this material. So you approach head teachers. So you arrange to see them, arrange to meet to them, and so some of them seem to have bought into this. So have they all bought into it, as far as you can tell? Is there any concern by teachers?
Sure, I believe there is concern by teachers, yes, but I believe that what I was told today, now I don't know if you can confirm this for me, by the head teacher in the school I was at today. It was a lady that was sitting with. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but she told me that I need to get this right. She told me that a teacher teaching this has to actively seek out a course to do this. It's not part of the teacher training course. Is that right? So therefore, in my opinion, if you're seeking out to learn to teach this, then you must be in favour of it. You know, that's my opinion. Maybe that can be disputed, but
yeah, well, it's part of the guidelines, isn't it? That's the problem. It's part of the RSHP guidance, and this is the kind of framework and the materials are provided, and this is what's been encouraged to be taught in schools. And Amanda, you then have been handing out leaflets and trying to. I mean, you seem to have got to know other parents and sort of almost you've almost got a group together to do something.
Yeah, just unfortunately the group's not for my son's ex-school. But as I say, I heard about this a few years ago as well. And when I first approached my son's teacher in primary, he was just getting into primary 2. And when I questioned her, the email came from the council. I'd heard about it previously, so I went and spoke to her. She had no idea about the email, then decided that, agreed straight off the bat, because I'd found something online. I think it was actually from like America, but it was something online similar, and I showed her, and she was absolutely like flabbergasted. And she says, "I will not be teaching that, I'll tell you right now." Then later on, she said that she would teach body parts and correct names. That was it. I told her right up there and then that I wasn't happy with it. But luckily, she had a wee girl the same age as my son, starting school at the same time. She says, "You have to remember, I have a child being taught the same as I'm teaching your son." And I thought, all right. And she still refuses point blank to teach anything other than that, but she only teaches primary 1s and 2s. And then when he got to primary 3, I spoke to his primary 3 teacher, and she kept saying, "We've not had our meeting yet. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going on." I told her, "Look, I've been to conferences. I've been to places. You need to this. and she just kept making out she didn't know much about it. Then on parents' evening, I sent about 5 emails to the head teacher. He just started. That's another thing. There's been 3 head teachers in his school over the past 3 years. Now, I went to that same primary school and I had the same head teacher for 30 odd years was in that school. So they kept saying, because they didn't know my son, then he didn't want to have the meeting with me. But I was trying to explain to him, I have to speak to him. It is about my son, but not you know, it was confusing. So the teacher one night says, go find him, he's in the school. So I got the impression she wasn't easy or keen on it either, but wouldn't get into the discussion. She just says, he's here tonight, go find him. So I did, I hunted him down and I found him. And I eventually got a meeting, because I had 2 meetings with the head of year, who totally agreed with everything and totally agreed that it was not age appropriate, but it was not up to the school to dismiss it. Then obviously when I eventually got to speak to him about it, but he came for a whole different ball game. He totally threw me when I went for the meeting, because he agreed with all my concerns. He agreed with everything. I was within my rights to take him out. I was in my rights to have my opinion, my beliefs, all that. But I says, well, why are you continuing with it? Why can you not just... He came from the other point of view, as in young kids are being exposed online. And by exposing the young kids to these things will benefit them later on when they're exposed online, which doesn't really make that much sense to me. But I understood kind of where he was coming from. He was very, very open, and he did agree that he would upkeep my wishes, this, that, the next thing. I did send him the letter about the transgender stuff as well. I didn't want him being included in anything of it. And again, he agreed. There was no defendants like from him. And then obviously in the process of this, I met at one of the meetings, I met Catriona Taylor, and I got some of the leaflets off her. So I just started, we'd done a lot of travelling. So everywhere I went, I put leaflets, especially where it was a kids area to a certain extent. But I looked up the law about certain places you couldn't. So it was where parents would be. And I would just leave them everywhere. And then I started doing like a wee diary where I was leaving them. And then after that, I was just trying to get parents' attentions. I was trying to speak to parents. Obviously, I was the crazy one, blah, blah, blah. Then fast forward a year, I started getting private messages off parents. Oh, you'll never guess this, and oh, you'll never guess that. And I think, well, so slowly but surely. And then obviously I met Campbell, and we started coming to more conferences, and then we've gathered together. We've got about 13 in a wee support group on a WhatsApp, and we've just been sort of sharing information, and obviously supporting each other. I then we went to see the local councillor. I'd been to see my MP and my MSP. Both were like, nothing to do with us, take it up with your school. The head teacher says politicians at their best like to sit in the fence. No one will take either side. But what was really disheartening was we went to see a local councillor just to ask her opinion, see what was that, you know. She said that she didn't know nothing about it when we asked. What do you mean? Oh, I don't know anything about that. We then started discussing it.
And she knew everything.
And her back went up. And she was, I never lost it. I was tempted to, because I've had a few, no run-ins with her, but I've spoken to her several times on occasions. And she was a completely different person when I mentioned that. Her whole face. And what got me is when she said, oh, like, do you have a specific problem? So the example I gave was, I said, so you're telling me, I said, that it's fine for an 8-year-old to be taught about masturbating and how to masturbate. You're telling me that it's fine for an 8-year-old wee girl to be told her vagina may become wet and slippery when she wants sex. Do you know that woman's face did not change? She looked at me as if, what's your problem? My stomach churned, and I looked and I thought, and she said, I know, Mr. Brown's the head teacher of the school. And I told her that I spoke to him and he was understanding. I spoke to head of year. She was also understanding. She looked, excuse me, pissed off. And she was defending that to the hilt. And basically us two going in there with any concerns at all was just, she never said any words, but it was, how dare you come into my office and have any questions or concerns about this? So I then, obviously not that alone, I attached that to an email. I have now just removed Riley from the school completely. And I put in the email to Mr. Brown the conversation I had with her, because she says and so I've said to Mr. Brown, you know, that I've no longer got any trust in him or in education. I'm looking into flexi school at a private school. I mean, the emails this time, I'll send you if you want. I'm waiting for a reply. And then I also sent the legal document saying that I want him now deregistered, because I'm sorry, if that's the what do you call it? That's the response I'm going to get for someone like her. I'm sorry, nope. And no one's going to put me into changing my opinion, you know. So nope, he's no longer going to be anywhere near the school.
Yeah, see, what I think's really interesting about that is, I'm not religious at all, right? But I still think, listening to what you've described, which is what is being promoted in schools, does seem just quite obviously age inappropriate and unnecessary. And I think it's very interesting, this point you make about, see, because it's the argument that's being made is that kids have got access to mobile phones, therefore they will see everything, and therefore we need to get in first. And it's a strange kind of argument, you know, that, you know, they're going to see the same. So we're going to tell them about it first, and we're going to talk about sex, sexuality, sexual pleasure to very young children. And the thing I find disturbing about this is, even at the basic level of what education should be in terms of relating to people's values, I suspect if you went round all the parents with the description you've just said and said, do you think this is appropriate for 8-year-olds? I suspect the majority, you might get some, but you'd get a majority or a very large minority, I suspect a majority, who've got real problems with that. And that's one of my concerns about education at the minute, is that contentious issues and issues that really smack with a lot of people's values are just completely dismissed as being irrelevant. And that seems very strange in a sort of democratic society where counsellors are there to represent. You know, they're not there, you know, they're not there anointed by God or by some United Nations kind of committee. They're there because of you and the people in that community. And that seems really a kind of upside down way of developing education.
See, when I says to her about, because I'd says to Mr. Brown as well, when he went down that sort of issue, and then he said about, he says, plus all kids are different at different stages. I said, exactly. And then he said that, what was it? Another reason was obesity plays a big part in this, because apparently kids that are obese go through puberty a lot quicker than other kids. He said, so he says they're like, we've got a wee girl just now in primary 4 who's on her period. She's the only wee girl in that whole class. So how do we then? I says, right, well, that particular wee girl obviously does need, but the whole, what I was trying to explain is the whole class doesn't need spoke to about that, you know. And then he says there's a wee girl in primary 1 that, put it this way, her childhood, I've actually recorded the meeting I had with the head teacher. He said that there's a wee girl in primary 1, her childhood is now gone because of what happened online. I says, but you cannot assume. So when I asked about the parents, he kind of was like, we said the same thing to the counsellor, what about the parents? And she went,
too hard to educate the parents, was the counsellor's reply. It's easier to,
too hard to educate the parents.
I did say to her, I said, so it's easier to sexualise children as to tell parents they have to do the job they're supposed to do, you know.
That's so interesting, isn't it? That what they're essentially saying is we think parents have got the wrong values, and we can't talk to parents because they've got the wrong values. So we're going to develop these values through children. And you know, whether you agree with parents' values or you don't agree with parents' values, thinking that it's all right to try and instill new values through children against their parents' wishes is really quite authoritarian. and dangerous.
It really is. It's definitely taking the role of the parent very lightly, you know, instead of as it really is. The parent is the most important person in a child's life, you know.
Yeah.
Both parents, I would say. But today, when I talked to them, I did say about why are you teaching children very contentious things in schools as fact? But he said we're not. We're only giving opinions on it. That was kind of his take on it. It's not fact. I said, well, when I read these things, it seems to me that you're pointing out is it's a fact. You know what I mean? Exactly. A lot of these things, and so they didn't have too much reply to that. But another thing I said to the teacher was, I said, so my understanding is that to the head teacher is my understanding is that you're the first person that allows it in the school. I said, so you have a decision to make. I says, you have a decision to make where we have RSHP or PSE in school. I says, so you've made that decision because it's in this school. Yes, I have. I says, and I believe the next decision is down to the teacher, where she wants to teach it. And that's when we get into the teacher has to actively seek out to do this course to be able to teach it. So I take it the man at face value. I believe he was telling me the truth. Yeah. So therefore, that if you're going to seek it out, getting back to that, if you're going to seek this kind of education out to teach your children, you must believe in it.
You're up for it then.
And why is it not in teacher training, Stuart? That's what I can't understand, if it's all okay.
Well, I think when you look at teacher training, I mean, we're going to be looking at this soon, but in teacher training, the teachers are trained that social justice is what teaching is about, and part of social justice incorporates this kind of education. This seems to be seen as a kind of a more liberal, more liberated type of education, as opposed to parents who've got traditional values or the wrong values. And that seems to be the framework of it.
Yeah, the point you're making about the wrong values seems to be what you're getting back from people that think along these lines. I believe that the values, I'm not religious myself. I'm actually a spiritualist. And so I'm a very open person. I believe that people are entitled to live their lives, but I believe that children are entitled to be children, you know. Exactly. And that's the most important thing. If you take their innocence away, then childhood's really gone then.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, and it is almost like they've lost a sense that there is this thing called childhood.
Right, childhood's about. It's not, you have no power as a child, and that's the way it should be. You have to learn, you know, you have these responsibilities and all the rest of it. So empowering children,
you that way, yeah.
As I said to him in the school today, I said, so we're empowering children, so we don't even need to have this conversation in here. I just need to ask my granddaughter, do you want taught this? You know about it, do you want taught it? The answer is no or yes. I said, so really, if we're going to empower children, why are we having this meeting, you know?
But it's then a problem, though, isn't it? Because what you end up having to do is individually withdraw children, and that's a problem, because you've still got probably 90% of parents don't actually know what's being taught, and many will feel uncomfortable withdrawing their kids just because you often don't want to withdraw your kids, do you? Because it's like they become different, and
well, the social side of school as well. The socialising with other children. You're taking them away from that, so it's not a win-win taking your child out of school. Definitely not.
No, it's not. So what would you just to finish off then? What would you say to other parents and grandparents? What is it they should do? I suppose the key thing, is to educate themselves about what's happening. They can read the RSHP documents that are there. The Catriona Taylor. Remind me what her group's called, so that people can.
Save the Kids.
She's got another one on her leaflet.
This is what I have in my living room window, and I have people chapping my door asking questions.
and that's a good way to get it out there as well. You know, it really is. Catriona Taylor is the headmistress. She spoke at one of your.
She was a head teacher at a Catholic school. She says she was going back. She's seen this material, but obviously she's been getting sort of kicked out whenever she opens her mouth. But yeah, and I was at a my wee boy's high functioning autism, so he goes to see a paediatrician, and the school had referred him back. And I was speaking to her yesterday, so she's known my wee boy he was very young, and I was explaining about, I'm just going to homeschool him, blah blah blah. That's fine. She says, have you ever thought of flexi school? And I told her that yes, but it was this other school. She says, do you mind if I ask why you wouldn't put him back to his previous school, flexi? I didn't want to get into it with her because I wasn't there for that, but I was really interested to find out how she would feel about it without going into it. And she says, do you mind if I ask? All I said was, there's certain things being taught in the school that I don't agree with. And do you know, straight off the bat, she started nodding, and she says, no. She says, what you're doing, I think, is the best thing for Riley right now.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that the fact that she never asked me questions, does she obviously already know?
Yeah. But that is a terrible situation, I think, that you're forced to take your child out of school.
That's so sad. It is.
You know, I mean, that's a real indictment, I think. That's a real shame on the education system. So
I think we're getting back to what we should do is talk about it to as many people as you can. I believe that if you look at people's eyes when you actually tell them and you show them evidence, you see the change in them straight away. So that you're right, the majority of people don't agree with this.
I think they need, I mean, I think you say it, but it's like they need to a certain point, there comes a time where you need to kind of grow up here, and it depends on how much it's affecting you, you know. And see, in one breath, I find a lot of parents will say, oh, I'm dead against it. Yes, definitely. Well, what are you going to do about it? Well, nothing, I can't.
I haven't got the time.
And I understand there's a lot of people that are all in all different situations, and I found that night with the meeting as well, there was a lot of parents that just don't want to put their head above the pit. And that's not an easy thing. And it's not that we should down parents that aren't confident enough, but that's how we started this wee group, because there's a lot of parents in our group that don't interact, don't chat, but will listen to the information. So, you know, you really need to sit and think within yourself. And if it bothers you that much, you really need to make a stand.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. I think that's true. I also think that's partly why we've set up. So if parents are watching this, they can get in touch with us. We can contact their schools. We can possibly contact counsellors, MSPs, and you know, we can hopefully help bring parents together to a certain extent, so that they actually know other parents who are similarly concerned, so that people can become collective and potentially do things together. So I'll just end it there, because I think that's really useful, really interesting. So thanks again for that. And if anyone needs to get in touch with us, they can get in touch with us at info@scottissunionforeducation.co.uk, or find our Substack at Scottish Union for Education Substack, and it's online. Please subscribe to help support our campaigns, and thank you to Amanda and Campbell.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
Great. That's it. You're happy with that?
Yeah, that was good, I'm quite happy. With yourself, was that enough information? I think we kind of got across what the point we're trying to make.
Yeah, I think what's really useful is just I mean, it's like just saying what it is that's being taught, and also, you know, the fact that you've had to withdraw your child, I think it's an outrage, you know. I mean,
I'm actually a bit annoyed, because I shouldn't feel I should have to. Part of me doesn't want to. For like, sometimes I think, is that the plan? Do they want just the whole education thing to go to pot and I'm playing into their hands, or should I stand my ground and still keep them there? But as a parent, whether it's a mother instinct or whatever, but my gut for the start of all this has just been, you know, and for me to be settled, nope, he has to be. And having that appointment yesterday, she totally agrees. Now, she's had all the reports for the school and all his teachers. She's known him since he was a toddler. And for her to sit there, that was at that. Not that her saying it was wrong would make me take him out. you know, and sometimes parents don't always get it right, and I might not be doing the right thing, but it feels like the right thing just now, because I need to know that my child will be safe wherever he is. And if right now he's not there, I don't care who you are, you know, you're not, So for her to say that, and the fact that she never questioned when I mentioned the RSHP, gave me a wee bit of, oh, she knows what I'm talking about, and she agrees, you know, so a wee bit of something, but it doesn't mean I'm going to take him out and then forget it. I still want to try and shout and bawl wherever I can, or speak, should I say.
Well, it's good, and it's almost unusual, I suspect, that you get a professional who's actually all right. You know, that's not brought into all the garbage. You know?
Well, it is, definitely.
So what we were going to do next, actually, is we just went to our local counsellor, but there is actually lots of different ones in our area. So we're just going to literally go one by one and go through them all. And then what we were going to actually do is, there's a lot of local churches around my area, and a lot of them are against this. And I was actually just going to go in and say, look, how much are you against it? Would you support? Would you help? Would you know? And just speak to people in the churches. Because I spoke to, there's a lot of people that will chat at my door and ask about the sign. And I've had, see the amount of parents, and they've been like Muslim parents that have been told, and the things they're being told, and I just tell them, you know, I tell them straight, and they send more people to my door because the schools are telling them that they have no right to refuse it.
I think that
and these people just take whatever the teachers are saying. The amount of parents, I spoke to the teacher, and the teacher says, no, that's not what's being taught, and that's enough for them.
That was okay when the teachers really didn't know, because I think a lot of teachers, it just, here it is here, you know what I mean? It's here now. Now you can find out about it. They can't say that now. They know about it. They can't say, oh, I don't know and all that. They do know, obviously. Or there's a real concern if they don't know, you know, so.
But I think there's a big difference on the two as well. My son's school actually took the majority of it out.
The bad bits.
The bad bits, as they put it down to. But Campbell was at a meeting at his grandkids' primary school, and they have made it clear that they will use all material. All
the resource,
So there's another thing. It's not just over the schools, it's individual schools and individual teachers. His head teacher says that the teachers are allowed to cherry pick what they decide. So again, it's passing the buck and passing the buck and passing the buck.
I think I believe you'll find that they're not cherry picking anything, they're using the whole resource.
I suspect most of them are.
The one thing I would like to ask you just before I go is, do you believe it's worse in primary schools?
Worse in primary schools? Well, the reason I think it's worse is because of the age, because I think once you're sort of 12, 13, you've got a little bit of nous and all the rest of it. But I suspect the materials get worse in terms of the explicit nature of them.
Oh, definitely. But I believe that there's...
But it's worse. If I was going to say a kind of policy objective that we would have, would be to get rid of this stuff in primary schools. That would be a start.
I agree, definitely. Because if you're teaching them for 3 years old, by the time they get to secondary school, you've lost them, I believe. You know. So, it's very important that primary schools are targeted.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Anyway, I have to go.
All right. Yeah, me too.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for doing that.
Yep.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.